I guess I'm going to continue with my work history. Someone asked me to go into the newspaper story. Which, hi there. Say hi before I start. She's been sleeping on my jeans that I laid on my bed earlier that I had planned on wearing, and I didn't want to disturb her, so I put on other pants. I don't know who's the boss of who. But, so my last day at Simplicity was on my 24th birthday, as I had said in the video. And I had done a few little, like I said, telemarketing, didn't like it, something else. And then, when I was 25, I was looking around. Do you want some treats? And I wasn't having much luck at that time. And somebody called me who I'd met at a church. Her name was Darla. And she's like, I know you like computers a lot, and I'm sure you can type really well. And I'm going to be leaving my job, but I was wondering if you were still looking for a job. And I said, yeah. And she says, because I'm a typist, and I was going to recommend you if you wanted to go fill out the application and talk to the editor. And I said, awesome. So this is in October, and I'll tell you why I remember that here in a few. I went down and I met the editor, talked to her, filled out an application, and it was just for typesetting. And so she hired me, and I started either the next day or the Monday. It was Halloween day was my first day, and that's how I remember what day it was because it was easy to remember. And this was in 1996, 97. Let me see. 82, 92. Yeah, 97. I was doing the whole finger counting thing. I had a little desk against the back wall. We were in this location that was in right next to us, like a pizza parlor, and then there was like a video rental store. It was right downtown in the town I live in. It was a weekly newspaper. There was no internet then. All the press releases came in the mail. They were given to me. I was typed them in a program that automatically put them in a newspaper column. I would print them out, and I would give them to the proofreader, who then passed them to the editor, who then they would come back to me, and I would make all the changes that were written on them. And then once I did that, I would print a fresh copy and give it to the layout people. That's all I did was type. And then the editor and whoever was writing articles would give me their stories on floppy disk, and I would format them into columns, and they would be proofread, and whatever little editing changes needed to be done, I would make and print them out, fresh copies for layout. Layout was done on Mondays, because our paper was printed on Tuesday. And Monday nights at that time were late nights. We had one lady who just worked on layout nights, and sometimes we'd be there till like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And because I would just be there doing any kind of headlines or cut lines they needed, and stuff like that. And it was all hand laid out. The papers, I would cut apart the articles for them if they needed somebody to help them, and you would run them through a waxer, which when I first did that scared the crap out of me. I'm like, I'm going to lose an article back in the waxing. It happens. Not often. Once you learn it, it's fine, because it runs through and you catch it on the other side. And then you get these big sheets, layout sheets, and you just kind of laid out the page. And I didn't know anything about that. I was always usually busy at my computer getting stuff for them. And then one night didn't have a whole lot to do. It was going pretty easily, and Dialda, the lady who did layout, said, do you want me to teach you how to lay out? And I'm like, yeah, I do. So the first page I ever laid out was a senior corner page, and it was like a giant puzzle. It was so fun. I'm going to hey, do you want me to spray you with your water bottle, which I don't know where it is? And then a man started showing up, having meetings with our owner. A guy owned us, a local guy, had owned the paper for quite a few years. He was getting older, wanted to get out of the business. Apparently, we found this out later. And then one day he came in with him and introduced him as the new owner, this man out of Chicago. And so a stipulation of him buying the business was being in a different office. He didn't want to be in the office we were in. I don't know why. They looked at a few locations. They found one to move us to, which was maybe 4 blocks from where we were. And in February, we moved to a different location. Moving in February was fun. So we had to set up our new office and our new layout room and how we wanted things set up. We had a lot more space. Because where we were before, it wasn't a lot of space. And so we got everything set up and we stayed there for quite a while. We went through a few office managers. When I first hired in at the newspaper, the owner sold advertising. We had another lady who was out in the field selling advertising. We had a man selling advertising. So there were 3 people selling advertising at the time. And once we got the new owner, the old owner was no longer selling advertising because he wasn't there. And then we lost our others because of how they got along with our new boss. That's how we lost our office manager. I went to lunch one day. I get a frantic call saying he fired Candy, who was our office manager when I hired in. I'm like, what's going on? I leave. I hardly ever left for lunch. And I'm like, I leave for 30 minutes and all hell breaks loose. And I come back and they're all looking at me and I'm like, what? Because he had been there the day before, but he'd gone back to Chicago and called and fired her over the phone. This is how he did it. He goes, I think in 2 weeks is going to be your last time you should train somebody for your job. Who is going to stay when someone says that? He had no concept of So she hung up the phone and packed up her stuff and left. And I show up and everybody's looking at me like he wants you to do it. He thinks you're going to do it. And I call. I said, I hear I'm supposed to call you. He goes, yeah, did you hear you're going to be the new office manager? I said, I already have a job. I'm a production worker. He goes, oh, you don't want to be the office manager? I said, no, I'm a production worker. Oh, I thought you'd want to do it. I'm like, you thought wrong. And because I told them before I called, I said, I don't want to be the office manager. And, well, they're like, tell him you don't want to do it. So I did. I like working in the back. I didn't want to work up front. And so we went through a few people, and then we finally got the one that's been there for years. And so that was in place. Our editor was gone. He'd gotten rid of her. So we had no editor. We never did get an editor again. He just considered him the editor, owner, person. And so our crew started to get smaller, and we didn't really like the building we were in, and the rent was going up, and he wanted to find a different spot, so we moved again. But before we moved, we finally did get internet. We were like, you have to get us internet. You have to get us all networked. So we could just slide things into folders and not have to worry about passing papers to each other. And so we got networked, and then we got the software to start learning how to lay out the newspaper on our computer. So there for the last month before we moved, we were still doing layout and taking the paper over to be printed, but we were also duplicating it in the software to make sure we could do it. Because once we moved, we weren't going to have a layout room. It was going to be all computer, and we were going to have to know what we were doing. So we move, we get set up, and going to issue out the new way. And I loved doing it that way. I mean, before you'd have to run to your computer, get what you need, run back to the layout room, because it was around the corner, and run back, and run forth, and run back. And so just being able to do it all there, and it was the same, it's just all on your screen, you could set things to the side, and it was nice, I liked it. It was scary at first, but I enjoyed it. And then in 2011, I went to work one day. I'd been there for 14 years. And the only car there was our boss's, which is unusual because he was in town from Chicago, which was not unusual. He was a boss who came in on Tuesdays usually and left on Thursdays. And some weeks he didn't come at all. He had an apartment 2 blocks from the newspaper he rented, and he would stay there and come into town. And so he would sell advertising when he was in town, which he was not a good advertising salesperson. And because the community didn't know him. He was this weird old dude. The stories. But I show up and Daylene wasn't there, who was our office manager, who was usually the first one there. She usually got there a few minutes before I did, and we'd get set up, and she was not there. And he was the only one there. So I walk in, and I'm in the hallway, and I get ready to go to my office, and I said, oh, Daylene's not here. I should go check the email. He goes, no. I think we're done with you. I'm like, what? So I didn't even get to my desk. He fired me in the hallway outside of my room, and I was shocked and devastated. And I found out later the reason Daylene wasn't there is because she didn't agree with what he was doing. That's what she said anyway. And my dad had dropped me off. I didn't have a car there to get back home. I tried to call him on the cell phone, and of course his cell phone was not on. And I was starting to have a small nervous breakdown. And luckily, somebody showed up who used to work at the paper and retired. And she had been there in a while, but she was like, I'm like, oh, my angel has come to save me. And she walked around the corner and she saw me. I'm like, will you take me home? She's like, yeah, get your stuff. Come on, I'll get you out of here. So I was so happy that she showed up when she did, because it was meant for her to show up. And in hindsight, I was freaked out. I had my business to fall back on. And my portable toilet business, for those people who do not know, I own a portable toilet business. I started that while I was working at the newspaper. One day I was doing layout in our second location, and the phone rang, and my editor answered it. That's when we still had our editor. And she said, Stacy, someone's on the phone for you. So I took it in her office because she was out working in the layout room. And I'm like, hello? And it was my cousin Ronnie. And he's like, sorry to bother you at work, but I want to know if you want to go into a portable toilet business with me. And I'm like, huh? So that's kind of happened out of nowhere. But just for 3 or 4 months after I got let go from the newspaper is when I started having a whole lot of issues with my women's stuff, and I would have had to have quit. I would have not been able to work at that time. I was not able to do anything, I couldn't leave the house at that time. So I guess it happened the way it was supposed to happen. I do miss the newspaper. I love doing layout. It's like a giant puzzle. I need this much more room to make this article fit. Can I slice up this much of a picture? And I loved it. I love doing layout. And I got my job streamlined very well. I worked hourly. When I got my work done, I left. The only time I was ever there without anything to do was when the office needed to be covered. And I would have to play games or something because there was nothing to do. But somebody had to be there to answer the phones or help somebody who came in. So that was the only time I ever did fluff off stuff at the newspaper. Because I wanted to get there, get my stuff up, and get out. I just wanted to get done. So I had my job streamlined very well. Compared to, when I first started, I remember those layout nights being there at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I never understood it. I'm like, why are we here so late? Because once we got it streamlined, we were done at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon sometimes. Of course, a lot had changed. With the internet and layout on the computer, it made things much easier. I don't know who all works there anymore. I think there's only just 2 or 3 people. I don't even know how it has survived this long still. It changed to coming out twice a week, and the only reason it changed is because the legal publications said we need to publish twice a week, and if we can't, we're not going to go with your paper. We'll find another paper that we can go with. And if we didn't have those, they pay the bills. They're the big checks of the month. Is the legal publications, that the foreclosures and stuff that went in our paper. We were known for being the paper that had the foreclosures in them. People would subscribe just for the foreclosures because we had pages of them. And if there will come a day, I know, that'll all go digital. It'll all be online. They won't have to publish in newspapers. Because right now, by law, they have to publish in newspapers. But there's going to come a time where they'll change that to where they can just publish online. And that's where people have to go to look for notifications. And once they lose that, the paper will not survive. It's hard on weekly newspapers. It really is. So that's pretty much my work career. After that, it was just the business I have. Which on Wednesday I have to do payroll taxes. And I got to do payroll Monday or Tuesday. Whenever I get the hours. Ronnie's on 12 hours a day, 6 days a week right now, so he's a little Heidi back there. Her daddy went out to do some errands. So yeah. I loved the newspaper, I really did. We still get a free subscription, my dad gets it. They've now changed, they don't have the full newspaper size, they have the size that's like tabloid size, like this. It's smaller. It isn't a full-size newspaper anymore. So yeah, I guess I'm done. I gotta cut out coupons and stuff, and then we're getting Dad ready to roll in the morning. We're gonna get his stuff gathered up. He's not taking the flip cam like I said, but we just got the regular camera out. He's just going to take photographs while he's gone this time. I showed him the camera. He goes, I have never used this camera in my life. I'm like, yeah, you have. You took it to Arkansas and took pictures. You want me to show you the pictures to prove it? So I had to give him a lesson. Alright, I'm going now. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye!